Hello, everyone. We are here live. Apologies for the delay. Sydney weather here is absolutely horrible today. So Rachel's running a little bit late. Ruby's internet apparently has conked out 3 or 4 times, and my computer decided to die right before we jumped on. And fascinatingly, this is the only time you'll hear this happen, Gemma White actually, in tech terms, came out ahead. So if you can hear us, please let us know, because I'm not believing that anything is working today. And in the meantime, Gemma, for the captive audience, and there have been a lot of people, to be fair, excited that we got you on board. Why don't you introduce... And okay, Rachel, you can... Oh, God. Okay, just before we get on to Gemma introducing herself, Rachel, explain yourself.
Explain myself?
In terms of why the giant fangirling over Gemma.
Because it's Gemma! Gemma's awesome!
Well, give us some context. I mean, why...
Oh, okay. You need context. All right. So Gemma was the first person that I found on Instagram when I was looking at pageants, just scrolling through. And yeah, it's kind of the reason why I decided to do pageantry. So yeah.
I'm glad that I've inspired you to join pageantry and the world that it is, and all the special things that you're doing as well.
Oh, you're so cute. Stop. I'm going to get a big head.
To those of you who don't know Rachel very well, this is absolutely hilarious to me that she looks so embarrassed and bashful, because I have never seen her like this. She is fangirling hard.
I posted on Instagram that I'd be fangirling hard, and, you know, I lived up to my promise, so.
Okay, now Gemma has already made fun of my giant shiny forehead. So whilst I turn my ring light down, so I'm not quite as shiny, Gemma, can you, for the 1% of the audience who doesn't know who you are, can you please introduce yourself, particularly with regard to your pageant experience? I'm going to turn the ring light down.
If you don't know me, I'm Gemma White. I was Miss Australia Continents 2018. In the lead up, I had made national finals 7 times, and I placed first runner-up twice before I won my title. And then I had the opportunity to represent Australia internationally, where I placed first runner-up. And I've met some really incredible, awesome people on my journey.
Okay, so Shan...
And outside of pageantry, I work in real estate, and I love what I do. And I've been doing it for, 9 years.
What? Oh my gosh, that's a long time.
Don't say that, Rachel. You're going to make her feel old. Okay, so Chantel has jumped on board. Chantel, who was with us on the first episode, she has said, "Yay, 4 of my favorite humans." She has also said, "Oh, you inspired me also, Gemma."
See?
I will say,
I'm so glad to hear.
back early this year, I did put up an Instagram, one of the, the Ask Me Anything tags, stickers, and I asked people just how they found me, and overwhelmingly it was all through Gemma. So I don't really know how that happened. There were a lot of people who found out about what I do through an interview with Gemma. I don't know if it, I mean, I've probably interviewed Gemma second only to Alicia van Schoonhoven. I interviewed Alicia in the lead up to Galaxy, and she came first runner up at Galaxy International, so congratulations to her, by the way. And that means she gets to compete again next year, where I'm probably heading over as a judge. So I have to, in Chicago, we'll see how that goes. But I've interviewed Gemma more than a few times as well. But Catherine Adamson has said, "Have you powdered Adrian?"
I already mentioned this.
Okay, so... I give up. As I often say in interviews, if I'm doing an interview with a pageant queen and someone's looking at me, I'm doing it wrong. But Gemma, because I've put the link to your fundraiser, obviously, in the description. So guys, if you're looking at this during the live or looking at after and you see a link to the donation, Gemma's fundraiser, I'll get Gemma to explain what it's about, because it's not actually anything to do with pageantry, but it doesn't make it any less important. So Gemma, did you just want to give a brief overview as to what that's about?
Yeah, so I've recently come on board as an ambassador for Crohn's and Colitis Australia. I've been battling with Crohn's since 2016. I had a really rough 2017, and this year has been another very challenging year. So I'm very excited to jump on board as a Live Fearless ambassador. They've got a challenge throughout September where I will be raising awareness and funds throughout the month, and really just sharing my journey and what I've been through. It's been 5.5 weeks since I've had a flare and clearly still counting. But other than that, it has been an incredibly challenging, probably about 8 last months.
Gemma, can you just see if you can, I don't know if it's you, but someone's making a rustling sound. I think it might be you. Can you just move the microphone away from your hair a little bit? It's either you or Rachel. Yeah, it's rustling.
That's why my hair's back a bit, because that happened to me before.
Yeah, it's just rustling. I don't think it's Ruby, because Ruby is looking very fascinated at the moment. Ruby's going...
I'm just like, is it me?
I don't think so. Ruby's going very dark again as well.
I've got lights on, okay?
Really? Okay.
Swear to God.
I'm going to send you another ring light. But yeah, Gemma has I've known Gemma for a while, and she's certainly been through the ringer this year. It's been a challenging year. We always look for the best in what's happening, but sometimes it gets to the best of us. My year certainly has not really gone according to plan. I often say that if your life has gone according to plan for an entire year, please let me know, because you're not from the planet that I'm on. So I've actually, I know this is not really strictly on topic, but I've found that making really long-term plans in terms of a year, 5 years, 10 years, I do believe in setting a direction, but in terms of setting step-by-step goals for even a year ahead, it's almost just become laughable to me, because it feels like it's tempting fate to say, oh, you want that? Okay, so I'll take that away and I'll give you something else. And I think it's up to each and every one of us to see the opportunity in what we're given, rather than going, oh my God, I wanted this and you didn't give it to me. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but...
No, it's true.
I agree. You have a bit of a plan and a bit of a direction, but you have to be open to change, and lots of things happen, lots of hurdles along the journey as well.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through the comments. Tammy Lynette has said, you are, and she's talking to Gemma here, you are someone that Tiara Fisher has watched closely and been inspired by also, with a sparkly love heart. Catherine, oh my God. Ruby, your mum has said Gemma is iconic.
Yes.
Yes, agree.
Can
I remember
Can you explain more?
I remember the
Iconic.
first time we watched you on stage, and both Mum and I were like, oh my God, she's an angel.
Oh, that's so nice.
So you are iconic. Everyone knows Gemma.
Iconic.
Gemma's like the pageant queen.
Gemma asked what iconic means. Iconic means
No, I just mean what you mean by iconic in the terms of pageantry.
Well, let me put it this way to you.
Being me.
One of the other mothers said that Gemma is pageant royalty. It's Australian pageant royalty.
Oh. That's so nice. Thank you.
Well, it wasn't me that said it. I wouldn't say that.
I don't know what to say to that.
Well, I don't know either. I think I just left it as awkward silence. Okay. Moving on. I wouldn't want you to get too big ahead.
Good idea.
And Chantel has said to Gemma, what a fantastic ambassador you will be. So guys, the link that I put to Gemma's fundraiser, you can click on that even on the live stream now, and you can donate to that. But certainly autoimmune diseases, there are a lot of people in general, not just autoimmune diseases to be fair, who are going through a lot of things that they don't talk about. And frankly, I would encourage you to donate to those people, because there are a lot of people who shout about how horrible their life is and they're not going through anything. So I think it's the people who you don't actually know who are going through stuff that I personally would support most anyway. And before we get on to today's topic, which is how to deal with a negative pageantry experience, I haven't asked Rachel and Ruby. I haven't really introduced them. I assume most of you know them. But let's ask Rachel how her week has been, and she is going to China soon. So update us what's been going on since last episode.
I've been getting costumes together. I've been, practicing and everything like that, making sure my flights are all good and everything. So that's been really good. It's been super busy. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a really interesting 2 weeks.
Whereabouts in China are you flying to?
So I will end up in a place called Zhongwei. In a place, it's a city. End up there. Okay. So we'll travel through like Beijing and everything, and then it's kind of in a desert sort of area. So they do have camels, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, I'm keen. But yeah, it's going to be really cool. Yeah, camels. I don't know. It's like a deserty kind of area. It's in a province, I think, called Ningxia. I don't really know that much about China geographically, so I'm looking forward to finding out more about that and meeting everybody, so it'll be fun.
Rachel, you've now made the same face for 3 things. Number 1 was toast, number 2 was Gemma, and number 3 was camels.
Camels!
Those are the 3 things that excite Rachel Geller the most. Okay, Ruby, what about yourself? What's been going on since last week?
Oh, well, not as interesting as the other 2 particularly. So basically what's been happening with me is I've been getting a lot of photography work, which has been great for me. Cool. And I am currently working with one girl in particular who has applied for our system, and I'm just helping her out at the moment. And I'm planning to run a mentor and coaching session to just help anyone who needs help, really.
Oh, that's nice.
Remind me to talk to you about that so we can maybe put a listing up for you on the Pageant Project website. Before we go to the actual topic for today, and I don't mind if we tackle it briefly because I do want to keep it fun. Gemma, I did ask people on Instagram to send questions in, and you've got a few. So one has come from Ava Da Silva's mum, Catherine. I did explain a little bit of this to her, but she has asked, Gemma, do you see yourself competing again in another system? I can see you as Miss Universe with the emoji that has love hearts as the eyes.
Stay tuned. There's something in the works, something coming. This year has been a year for a break and to realign myself with what's really important to me. And what I want to take moving forward in all aspects of my life. So I do have something coming and something in the works, but I'm not sharing any secrets at this point in time.
Let's just say you can't keep a good queen down. Let's just put it there.
Sorry to not really answer your question.
You got to keep him guessing,
All right. Well, Chelsea Ann Lewis, who Gemma crowned, has asked, you've had such an awesome reign. What have you set your sights on next?
One of them I have just done, I guess, becoming an ambassador for Crohn's and Colitis Australia to be able to raise some awareness around autoimmune disease and the struggles that are often unseen by a lot of people and unknown as well. So that's something that has been really big for me. I'm working towards real estate awards and a few things within my career. And then in terms of pageantry, I've got something coming, but I'm not showing any secrets at this point in time.
Let's keep going. Tim Kretschmann from the Pageant cast has asked, how do you balance it all?
Hi, Tim. How do I balance it all? I don't know. I just do. I get asked that question a lot, but it just happens.
Me.
I've got no idea.
I remember asking you in our interview in Newcastle, you said you had 3 lives. One was, I think obviously one was your real estate, one was the pageantry and the charity side, and one was the crazy side, like the personal, like doing stupid, like not stupid, crazy, maybe stupid, I don't know. Is that still true, the 3 lives?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Ruby will...
I don't really watch TV, but I'm always doing something productive.
Bachelor.
I've never watched that.
Oh, yeah, I watched that. I'm guilty.
I have not watched Bachelor and I've not watched Married at First Sight. Are those basically the same shows?
Not really.
No, not really. Bachelor, there's always pretty gowns and...
Is that why you watch it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't believe that.
The inspo.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Now, Ruby will enjoy this question because it comes from Jabina, who is Jasmine Alicio's mother. And she has asked, again, on the topic of pageantry, Gemma, do you think you could join the international family for 2020?
Whoa.
Was that a question for Ruby?
No, that's a question for you, Gemma. So the sash that Ruby is wearing, Jabina has asked, do you think you could join the international family for 2020?
You'll have to stay tuned on that one. I'm not giving away any
I'm
secrets.
seeing a common theme to all these questions. It's like, Gemma, what are you going to do next? And Gemma's not going to give you an answer. Not yet, anyway. All right, so Ruby's mother has asked, have you always lived in Queensland? And if you didn't live there, where else would you choose to call home?
I would call the Central Coast home. That's where I grew up, so an hour north of Sydney. And I lived there until I was 20. I did all of my primary school and high school years down on the Central Coast. And I moved to Brisbane when I turned 20. I literally was like, I'm going to move to Queensland. And 2 weeks and 5 days later, I was living in Brisbane with a job. I then backpacked around Europe for 6 months in 2014 before I moved to the Gold Coast. And now I call the Gold Coast home.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
I feel like your life is more put together than mine.
Me too.
I'm a little older. You've got a few more years ahead, Rube.
Having said that, I do think it also says a lot about Gemma that she made a decision and then 2 weeks later she was in another state with a job. That, regardless of age, is very impressive. Now, just to bring you up to speed, and then we'll get on to our topic for today, Chantel has said that Ruby is the legend behind the lens. Chantel has also said, "Yes, Miss Universe."
Yes! Do it.
Thank you, Rachel, for that. Blaze DeVos has said Gemma with stars in her eyes. Alexis Gale Ellis has said hi. Jazzy Grace Alessio has said yes, please come and join our families. So she wants Gemma to join the international family.
Yeah.
And Alexis Gale has asked what you think of having LGBTQ in pageants. Alexis, I don't know, and guys, feel free to join in on this. I don't know what country you're from. Here in Australia, we'll say that we do have LGBTQ specifically in pageantry. Do I think it's overrepresented or underrepresented? I'm not qualified to say, but I haven't seen enough of it to be honest. But I do know that it exists here in Australia, and I think just suffice to say, my overall opinion is I think everyone deserves a chance. So if the pageants that exist for that, that's great. If not, that's a shame. But then on the other hand, everyone has their own lane. So I'm not going to, for example, say that a certain system should accept someone that they don't want to. That's their business. So, Rach, Ruby, or Gemma, if you want to weigh in on that, then go right ahead.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you.
Yeah. I don't really know enough about it. I know that there are LGBTQ pageants, but I haven't really seen one. I've heard about them, but I haven't seen them. So.
Yeah. And for example, Anthony Wayne, who I've only met once in person. Actually, I think it might have been at Ruby's pageant. It was either Ruby's pageant or it was at Continents last year. But like, I love Anthony. I respect him a lot. He's done a lot of great work, and he is part of that community. And he was in Mr. Diamond, to give you an example. So I almost see it as a non-issue, only in terms of if you're part of that community, great, come on board. But in terms of representation, over-representation, under-representation, I don't think I'm qualified to say, and I think it would depend from country to country. Okay, I am just going to Okay, Alexis said thank you for the answer. I'm grateful for your answer. All right, just one more question from Tammy, and this is probably more for Ruby. A lot of I guess not respectful, but respectable pageant girls are doing the international system and sing its praises. She's asked, why so, may I ask? So Ruby, why don't you take this one?
Well, as I said on, I think, our last stream, is our director is extremely transparent. And for her, the biggest thing for her is, how can I make your experience the best it can possibly be? I don't care what I have to put into it, but I will do the best to make sure that you get the best from this experience. And that's something that I personally admire. I mean, I wouldn't have come back if I didn't enjoy the system.
Yeah. Well, I think it says a lot that anyone would go into the same system twice. I think it's one of the best things to look at is, are the queens actually returning? Because if the contestants aren't returning, then I think something is very wrong. So I hope that answers your question. God, opens your answer. Okay, let me leave the questions alone for a second so I can actually concentrate. So the topic that we're going to deal with today was how to deal with a negative pageantry experience, because yes, OMG, it actually exists. Now, where do you begin with this? I think a negative pageantry experience will define it. It can be anything from being a little bit upset that you didn't win, up to everything and including that it was fixed and your position. And just so people are clear that I'm not being negative, these are things that I know have been told to me that have happened. Things like being a finalist and your position has been bought out by someone else, or having your national director buy a lot of things for you, having to buy a lot of things for your national director and then never being reimbursed. So I am fully aware that negative experiences do happen in pageantry, and I think if you're going to tell me they don't, then I think you are either naive, you've turned a blind eye to it, or you're very new and you just haven't seen it yet. And I do hope that you don't see it, but I don't want you to be naively positive. I want you to be prepared for what might happen. So given that that's the approach that I wanted to take, Gemma, I know that you said that you did a bunch of show notes, things that you wanted to talk about. So being our guest, did you want to lead off the topic?
Yeah, I think it really comes back to the topic that was discussed last week and choosing the right system for you. I think it's really imperative to research heavily into the system that you're looking to apply for, because there really is a system out there for everyone, and that can either make or break a good or bad experience for you. The people behind it can really make or break your experience as well. And just making the right decision for you, following your gut instinct on that. Yeah,
I mean, last week we talked a lot about how to pick the right system. So if you're watching this and you haven't seen that, then go back to our last episode with number 2, and we talked a lot about that. I thought who was it? Emily Egan suggested that she said she was pretty ruthless in her research, which I certainly agree with. My personal opinion was the director has a lot. I think the director is 50% of your equation. So the more you can find out about the director, and remembering that you may have a national director, but then if you win, then you have an international director, and obviously those are two different people. So, and they're not the same people. Rach, I'll throw it to you. What are your opening thoughts on this topic?
I think a lot of the time it comes to what you're expecting to get out of the experience, but also how you deal with disappointment. Like if something happens and it's not what you expected, how are you personally going to deal with feeling disappointed? Because it's difficult. Like if you don't get the result that you were after, or someone does something and you didn't expect them to be like that, it can be really disappointing. But you kind of have to have coping mechanisms to do that. And that's not just in pageantry, that's for life generally.
Yeah. I was actually going to say that I think dealing with a negative pageantry experience is no different to dealing with a negative experience just in general in life. Ruby, what about yourself?
Well, basically the same as Rachel just said. Like, whole thing is, this is just a pageant, and I know you never want it to happen in whatever you're doing, but you may come across a negative experience, and it's just the biggest thing for me is dealing with that professionally. That's the biggest thing.
Can you define for us what you mean by professionally? Because I think that's hugely important.
Well, I mean, I have been in a negative pageant experience, and as much as you want to come out and say this, and this, you've got to be diplomatic and professional about it, and you can't just come out and say, oh my God, this is terrible, blah, 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 blah. You've got to really back up your evidence and your reasoning why this was a negative experience, but not to just come out and blurt out everything, obviously.
Yeah, because you just never know who's watching, like who's in the room, all that sort of thing. Like with pageantry, because it's so small, you just never know who knows who. And if you do something and someone takes it the wrong way, that can really work against you in the future. So you have to be very careful and, like you said, professional about what you say.
Yeah. And we can't go into a pageant expecting to win, because there are so many deserving girls all vying for the same title. So each of us brings something new and exciting to the table in every system that we compete in. And you might just not be the best person on the night or the best person for the job in that instance. Really comes back to remembering your why and staying in your own lane on that as well.
Yes, agreed.
Agreed, yeah.
Agreed. I'll just say that because everyone else said, but no, I do agree as well. So let's get into the nitty gritty. And if you guys have any particular topics that you want to address, because I know, Gemma, you made some things that a bunch of notes you want to talk about, we just shout out, but we've talked about sort of the vanilla topic. I think of, if you don't win, deal with it. I think that's really the summation. Don't go into a pageant expecting you're going to win, because that's just bad. Just don't do it. And there's just so much, there's so many experience I can tell you about. So it's a bad idea. Don't go into expecting to win. If you do, it's what's it like, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. It's not quite like that, but you guys understand what I mean. But let's go to the next level. And I'm not going to disclose any of this, but I know you guys have all had, as Ruby has said, negative, diplomatically and professionally said, negative pageantry experiences. But let's take it to the more extreme cases where you have, as I said, for example, people buying out your place, or people accusing you of things you didn't do, or you just have a massive falling out with the director for whatever reason. I'm curious as to know how, not all you guys, all three of you, deal with it professionally. That's a given. And as Ruby has said, that's the best way to deal with it. I certainly would not go on social media in public and blast them. But in terms of dealing with that level of disappointment, when you have maybe prepared for years and you finally think that all that hard work has paid off, and you go overseas or you go to your national final, and then the unthinkable happens and you are very, very disappointed. I think, how do you deal with that? That's the big question. And I think it's one that we really need to deal with, because a lot of people can't deal with it, but that's what we're here to talk about. So I'll throw it to Gemma first, just because I know she's given some thought to this topic. So in terms of dealing with that, really the nth degree of, okay, this is a properly bad experience, what tips would you give to people to deal with that?
Something that I implement in everyday life, whether it's pageants, real estate, day-to-day life and things that you go through, is to really just do one day at a time, stick to who you are, and coming back to that why. I can't express how important it is to remember your why. And sometimes in the heat of the moment, or when you've got different things that are going on, or someone that you've not agreed with, then it is really hard to remember that. But know that you've always done your best, to then really take a step back, take a moment to breathe, take a moment to think about what you say before you say it. And that's something that I was taught from a really young age, is think about what you're saying before you say it, because you want to make sure that, again, being professional in every aspect of your life, because you don't know who's in the room, you don't know who's listening. And if you take a step back as to who you are as a person and what you wanted to bring as either a title holder or as a finalist, and remembering that platform as well.
I just want to touch on that why, because you touched on it briefly, but it is hugely important. So to take yourself as an example, what was your why for dedicating a significant portion of your life to pageantry?
I was actually an ambassador for I Can, I Will, an anti-bullying charity, and that was something that I'd experienced through school. So that was hugely my platform for many years. And Crohn's was something that's relatively new to me, so sometimes it's hard to speak about. So using an experience that I've had to then empower and inspire our younger generation that you can always push through, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, to just stepping back into not taking anything to heart, to be able to keep pushing through. And at the end of the day, it is just a pageant when it comes to standing on stage. And if you walk out there with elegance and poise, remembering who you are, you walk away a winner regardless.
That's good advice. I would tell people to take it. I know it's maybe simple advice, but sometimes it's harder to actually put it into practice. Ruby, let's go to you. So in terms of dealing with those really difficult situations, not just the ones, I'm a bit disappointed I didn't win, but the ones where someone hasn't treated you probably the way you deserve to be treated, or the way that contractually you said you were going to be treated. How would you deal with, or how have you dealt with those situations?
Well, the biggest thing for me in life, just in general, pageants, art, schooling, whatever it may have been, if I've had a negative experience, I always go, okay, well, I'm going to come out of this experience and be remembered for something positive, and I'm going to make a statement that is positive. So the biggest thing for me is no matter what negative experience you go through, come out and prove that you are the best possible person, and that this wasn't for the pageant or whatever it may be. You're here to make a legacy. That's the biggest thing for me. So be remembered for something positive no matter what negative experience you've been through.
Well said.
Miss Gallagher, to you.
Oh, yes. Well, I haven't been in pageantry long enough, I feel, to sort of have had that many like negative experiences, like definitely things that I didn't know about and different pageant culture things that I didn't really know about, that you learn once you go through it. But I've done something that's not really a pageant. It was the Rose of Chile. I did that for 3 years, and that was a really sort of hard experience for me because with my escort, you kind of saw the whole process and everything. It's a long time. It's 3 months of your life every year, and you dedicate so much and everything. And then when you get to the end and one person wins and there's no first runners up or anything like that, everyone, you either win or you don't win. So that was a really hard experience for me because I stood on the stage 3 times and I didn't win. And you have to kind of get down off the stage and, you know, congratulate the other girl, even though you feel like at the end of the day you're like really upset about it. But you kind of go away, and after a few days and after a few weeks, you kind of reevaluate, okay, what do I do now? What do I do next? And I think it's always thinking ahead in time rather than what's happening right now, and thinking about where you actually want to go in the future, and that this is sort of like one sort of thing that's happened to you. It doesn't define you as a person. It's not a reflection of you. It's just one little part of your story at this point in time.
Yeah,
I think that comes back to a lot of a quote that I really stand by, and that's everything happens for a reason, both good and bad. We learn and grow from every experience.
Yeah. One of the girls in the Rose, who's a few years older than me, and I actually was with her in my first year, she said to me, "What's for you won't pass you by," which I think is a really good quote too.
We're going to go into our favourite quote territory, are we?
Yes. We're already there.
I have another one, please.
Go for it. Give me your favourite quotes. Come on, let's hear them.
Okay. It's a long one. I'll have to remember it.
That would
Surround
help.
yourself with the dreamers. Surround yourself with the dreamers, the doers, the believers, and the thinkers. But most of all, surround yourself with those who believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. I think that comes back to your support network, your family, your friends, those people who have always believed in you, even when you're a nobody.
I like that one. I have heard that one before. I can't remember who who originally came up with that. The one that
You've probably heard that from me, because that was one that I put on my card when I went to both internationals and nationals, and I handed it out with a little a little gift at both nationals and internationals. It's sort of been a saying and a quote that I've had for a long while.
Maybe. The one that really comes to mind for me, and I'm not particularly religious in any sense of the word, but I like the one that is God's delays are not God's delays are not God's denials. In terms of your dreams, and maybe you didn't get them just now, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means it didn't happen yet. And one of the Galaxy girls I interviewed, actually Australia's teen Galaxy, she said her favorite word was yet. And I thought that was really insightful, because she said, like, it's such a short but such a powerful word. So it hasn't happened for me versus it hasn't happened for me yet. I really, really love that answer. But to bring it, and guys, if you want to tune in with anything, you don't need to follow my lead. By all means, if there's any topics that you want to discuss in terms of this, I do think it's pertinent that we talk about social media as well. In terms of, if we're going to talk about negativity, we need to broach a topic of social media in terms of two things, I think. One is, when you have a negative experience, do you blast it on social media? And the secondly, obviously, is how do you deal with negativity on your own social media? Now, negativity doesn't just mean trolling. It can mean someone stating something that you strongly, strongly disagree with. And that's probably the easier one to tackle. So I'll circle back to Rachel first, only because I know that you and I have discussed on several occasions people who posted things underneath your post that you, for one reason or another, have strongly disagreed with. So how have you dealt with those?
I think everyone's obviously allowed to have their own opinion about what's going on. But just because you have an opinion doesn't mean that everyone wants to know it. And sometimes some opinions should be said to certain people, but not to other people. So that's something definitely that I always try to remember. But for me, I haven't really copped much social media negativity or anything. It's funny, like, I always think it's funny that, you know, people who might be sitting on your Instagram stories or your Facebook stories, that you know who supports you and who doesn't. And it's sometimes very clear who does and who doesn't, but it's always very interesting to see who lurks on the stories. I think that's really funny. But yeah, like I've never like had anything, I don't know, any like beef with anyone or anything like that, because I'm just not that type of person.
You deal with it super well, though. I mean, I think that.
You reckon?
Why no? I mean, people post some things on your posts, and then I think you're able to brush it off more easily than some people.
Yeah.
How did you learn that?
You've got to have a sense of humor about it. I think I just find the humor in everything. So I think if you have a really good sense of humor and you can see kind of the farcity of it, that it's, I don't know, it's sometimes it's kind of like a sitcom. My life is like a sitcom.
And it's always a reflection of them, not a reflection of you.
Exactly, yeah. So it's what they're feeling at that time, and it's not necessarily reflective of who you are as a person or who they are even. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Gemma, what do you think, dealing with negativity in social media?
I think it comes back to, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it at all. I wouldn't post anything negative to anyone else. And I always think that you should only be supportive of what they're doing, or if you don't want to support what they're doing or you don't believe in what they believe in, simply you don't have to respond. You don't have to say anything at all. Leave it to them. That's their stance. That's their platform. That's maybe what they've got knowledge in and you don't. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, if you don't agree with someone,
I lost train of thought.
yeah, and like if you've got a follower or something like that who has a problem with you, the thing I think that they should remember is they don't have to follow you. It's their choice to do that. So yeah.
That is the most fascinating part for me, is when someone follows you and they obviously have a big disagreement with what you're talking about, but they keep following you and they look at every single one of your stories. I'm like, why? What are you doing? If what I'm saying is annoying you or angering you deeply, unfollow. It's okay. I won't lose any sleep over it. I do not. It's like the epitome of idiocy to follow someone who it'd be like me following Donald Trump. I mean, just like on Twitter, like what? I don't need to see that. So why on... I know we're not supposed to talk about politics, but I mean, yeah. I think you understand what I'm saying. And I do respect some of the things he's done, but I have huge issues with some of the others. Miss AU until 2019, because I haven't said that yet in this episode. Miss AU until 2019. How do you deal with negativity in pageantry and in social media?
Yeah, well, the whole thing that pageantry has taught me, which is, I think, fantastic for, kind of the younger generation, is everything you say can be screenshotted and it can be sent to people and it can affect your life, especially if you're entering another pageant. If you've had a fallout on social media and you've been really negative, the next pageant you enter, it's like, I don't think this girl's really good for your competition because she's like this. So it's that thing of just be careful what you say, and that whole thing is if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all.
Good rule for life, yeah.
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 I will say a friend of mine was asked about a system she had competed in, and someone else asked me about that system. I had a young girl ask me, what do you think about this system? I think of entering it. And I knew that my friend had had a negative experience. And she was about to jump on and message her back. And I said, no, don't do that. Because exactly what Ruby said, that can be screenshotted and you never know how it can be used against you. I mean, we like to believe that everyone has your best intentions at heart, but it's patently false. So if you do have to, for some reason, say something negative or constructively critical, I strongly suggest that you voice note it, or you call the person about it, that you certainly don't post it in public. Don't post it in public. Don't post negativity in public. Don't go on someone's Instagram live stream and post that, because that's also public. But even your private messages are not private. I mean, unless you really, really know the person well and you know that they're not going to pass it on, and I've done that. But don't post negativity anywhere, because it will be screenshotted. It will be passed on to someone. And even if you are being constructively critical, it will be taken out of context and you will be made to look like the devil himself or herself. So don't do it.
Yes. No. And another thing, if I can just add, which is a huge thing, no matter how much you've had a negative experience with this system and you want to tell these people, it's really something that person has to learn for themselves and make their own opinions about. You can't just jump in and go, don't do this, it's terrible. That's something that someone has to learn.
And if you step back to your why and taking the positive out of it, then you won't have such a negative experience at the end of it all anyway.
Yeah, and it's all a bit of a laugh, you don't take it too seriously. You never take yourself too seriously.
You learn from it all.
Exactly, yeah.
I've surrounded myself with 3 wise women.
Oh,
Have you?
Well, I don't know. At least on this topic I have. Let me just go ahead. Jasmine Alicio. Jasmine, hello. She has asked, do you believe it's okay to be a reigning queen and then compete in another system? I will answer first by saying it's a decision that you make. If you are someone who wants to do... I don't believe in telling anyone that what they doing is wrong. I mean, if you have your goals, you have your dreams, and you want to do it, who am I to tell you that it's wrong? Having said that, obviously there's a certain perception of someone who has a title and then goes and competes in all the pageants under the sun. But I personally, as long as you're happy with where you're drawing that line, then I would say that's where I draw the line. Rachel seems to have frozen. Rachel, can you still hear me? When Rachel dropped out, we lost the audio briefly on Gemma and Ruby. So Gemma, can you just restate what you said about reigning title holders going to other systems, because people apparently didn't hear that, but they can hear you now.
I'm a big believer in putting your entire heart and soul into everything that you do. So I believe that you should see a pageant all the way through, from the minute that you get accepted as a national finalist or even a state finalist. You should be representing that system to the best of your ability and remembering your why at the very beginning. seeing that through to nationals. If you then are lucky enough to win your title to represent Australia or to represent that system internationally, you should be seeing that all the way through, right even through until you hand over your title to the next Australian Queen. To me, it's about putting your entire heart and soul into everything that you do.
And Ruby, just you basically echoed Gemma's thoughts, but do you want to weigh in quickly?
Yeah, well, I basically said the same as Gemma, and I think it's really important that you stick with it. You really stick with it. And I think the whole thing you need to remember is that you're given this title for a year. And a lot of people won't remember your name, but they'll remember your title. And for me personally, I'd want to be remembered as, oh, that's Miss Australia International. Then, oh, wait, I think she's Australian National, but I also think she's this. And, like, it, to me, it just doesn't sit right.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. I think Rachel's internet has dropped out. So... Okay, so I think we've lost Rachel, unfortunately.
Oh no.
But that's okay. She can watch the rest of it. So we're down to there's only 3 of us now. Ruby and Gemma. One of you is going to be evicted.
Welcome to the big house.
We should throw it to the audience and say who stays on, who should go. But. We've been on for a while and it's already 6:10, so I'm cognizant of your time. I don't want to hold you guys up for super long. But guys, any closing thoughts on anything, including obviously our topic about how to deal with a negative pageant experience, but just negativity in general? Why don't I throw it to Miss AU until 2019 first and get your closing thoughts?
I feel like that's my name forever now. So I think the biggest thing with me and what I've learned through my negative experience is when you see those girls' faces at national finals and they're filled with smiles and happiness and they're just so excited to be there, make sure that you make their experience memorable, because it's important. It's not about you. It's about who you impact. And if you can put a major smile on their face and inspire them, then that's the most important thing to me.
And not only the girls who are maybe coming through the system behind you in order to take over your place to represent Australia, but also the generations to come and the young girls or women, people that look up to you and what you do, because each of us brings something unique and special to the table. And to just stay in your own lane and remember your why and keep being you.
Yes.
No one else is you, so just stick with that.
Ruby's mum, Catherine, so Gemma, I don't know if you saw, but we were debating what to call the podcast. And because it's Adrian, Rachel, and Ruby, we thought it's either ARR, so R, or RA. Now Catherine has said, now it's ARG. Adrian, Ruby, and Gemma. So great. Our podcast. Exactly, Ruby, yeah. ARG.
I could be first and then be
ARG.
Oh, what have we got? We got ARG, we got GA, GRA. Yeah, okay. But Gemma, your closing thoughts or anything that we didn't discuss, if you want to bring it up now and we can tackle it.
I think we've covered everything. Just be you. That's all we can ever do.
Leave a positive legacy. What do you want to be remembered for? Think of that.
Sounds good to me. Okay.
And even if you're going through a negative experience, if you turn it around and take the positives out of it, the lessons in everything that you do in life, then you're ahead of the game.
Yes. Completely agree.
Okay. Before I let you go, why don't you guys tell us, in Ruby's case, what you've got lined up for the next week, and Gemma, just generally what you've got lined up, because I don't know when the audience will see you next. But Ruby, why don't you tell us what you've got planned for the next week?
Well, I've got the Australian Gold and Sash Awards coming up, which I'm really, really excited about. I've been nominated for Ultimate Role Model and Humanitarian of the Year, which is really, really exciting and just really nice to know that people do take into account what I do and they see me in that way, which is really cool. And also just a lot of girls are coming through in our system, so I'm just ready to help them with whatever they need. Being a photographer, digital designer, can kind of do a bit of video editing. I know I can help the girls in a major way. So I'm really, really happy to be able to help their journeys.
Perfect. And Gemma, for yourself, including, remember, we talked briefly at the front about your fundraiser, but for those of the guys who are just tuning in now, if you want to quickly go over that and then what you've got lined up for yourself, I guess, for the rest of 2019, because it's only 3 or 4 months till the end of 2019.
It is. I always try to come back to just doing one day at a time, and having only had 5.5 weeks, as I said, clearly counting, since my last flare, it's been a crazy battle for the beginning of this year. So I'm really just trying to, I have a lot in the making, but just trying to stay really grounded, and in case things don't quite go to plan, because that's been pretty much my entire year. But as an ambassador for Crohn's and Colitis Australia, I will be raising awareness and funds throughout the month of September and moving forward as a Live Fearless ambassador. I've joined their support group, and they're doing some really cool things, and I just want to spread that awareness, because it is something that is really close to me, something that I've been battling with, and something that is quite difficult to talk about. But I know that I'm not the only one that is battling in silence, and I want to be a bit of a voice and a bit of a voice for those who feel that they can't speak out, or feel that they are suffering silence, or feel that they are alone, to know that there's always someone else that's going through it, and we all have our own battles, and we all have a story to tell. But if there is anyone else out there that maybe has an autoimmune disease and you feel like you're the only one, reach out to me. I would be happy to help, and hopefully together we can get through it. I am holding a Queen Tampa makeover in a couple of weeks for my bestie's little sister, so that's super exciting. I put my sash and crown on, and they'll get to wear it as well, so I'm excited for that. I've got a family wedding back down on the Central Coast where I grew up. So it'll be nice to catch up with all of our family friends down there. And hopefully a trip to Sydney at the end of the month as well, to see both of you.
When she says...
Adrian, you look shocked as though you don't know about this.
No, I'm looking at my calendar. So when Gemma says end of the month, she doesn't mean August. She means, well, end of September, early October. Yeah. Just think. Yeah. Gemma, I will tell you, this is not just to blow smoke at you. The number of people, when I've mentioned that you might be coming down to Sydney, the number of people who are super excited about it, even though you may not get to meet all of them and see all of them, it's a little bit off the charts. So, yeah.
Let's have a 10 bowling party.
Which I will beat you at.
I suck, but I know I suck. But I will give it a red hot crack.
As long as I win, I don't care.
I'll put my best forward. You've got a good chance.
I could bowl left-handed, and I probably beat all three of you. It's like, honestly, it's not much competition. What I was going to say is
I'll hold you to that.
I'm happy. I'll go publicly. I'll say I'll go left-handed. Like, I don't mind, and I still fancy my chances. I will bowl left-handed, and you, Miss White, I'm happy to have a bet with you, and I'll bowl left-handed.
Done.
God, what have I done? But Gemma, just because I know as part of what you've been going through, you've had to administer yourself injections. And you said that you had a phobia of needles. And when I interviewed Miss Galaxy UK, she has also a phobia of needles. And she said that she actually got so bad, she was in hospital last year, and she actually hid under the covers when the nurse came around to do the blood tests, and that she had to be held down.
I understand the feels.
Are you on that level of...
I've had that before as well. Yes. At school, when you go through all the injections that you have to have, and I'm quite sure that everyone can relate to this, and especially girls, you go through different ones, and you go through and you all line up, and I'm not sure whether it's the same in other countries, but certainly as here in Australia, I would never have my injections when everyone else did. I would wait until the very end. I was the last girl that I'd go in. I'd be going in with a fuss, and a lot of the time Mum would even have to take me to the doctor's surgery to have them done.
Oh.
I remember the first time that Dad saw me have an injection, and he could not believe how bad I was. I would scream and cry, and like I just had this complete phobia of them, even to the point that I've been held down before. I've had to go back different days. They've tried to give me iron infusions, tried 9 times, couldn't get my veins, to the point that I'm like screaming as I'm leaving. And then this year I've had to really tackle that head on. I've gone from having injections in the doctor's surgery, having a specialist do it for me, to then having an in-home nurse. And now I do them myself. I've done 4 so far on my own, so I have to do them fortnightly. So I'm super proud of that.
I can't.
It's been a journey.
Like, I can't imagine, as someone who doesn't have a phobia, I can't imagine what it's like to have to confront that phobia and to have to then confront it once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'd have to say that I've cried most times. It's been tough, but I didn't on Monday.
Okay.
I'm having a good week.
I pray that you continue to have more good weeks, more than the 5.5 weeks. No one's counting, but more than the 5.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I trust that I'm on the right path now, and yeah. There's been so much happening. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Jasmine has said, let us know, Gemma. So Jazzy Alicia wants to know when you're coming down to Sydney. And Rachel has said, woo, trip to Sydney. So she's still with us. She's not dead, but she's just not on Skype at the moment.
She must be kicking herself right now. She'd be like, oh, no.
This is something that would happen to Rach, though. She somehow manages. Well, actually, neither of you two were there, but I don't know if you saw the Instagram video when we were doing the Queen's March through the city, and this was the first time she had a title, she had a crown and sash on. She got stuck in a tree.
Yeah, I remember that.
So do I.
How do you get stuck in a tree? I mean, of all things. Anyway, okay. Look.
I would also like to just point out that my technology has been great. Thanks to Adrian for pointing out last time that I was terrible at technology.
We can still see you in the reflection, Adrian. You can't hide.
Well, Ruby, I'm not the only one who's tried hiding under a table unsuccessfully, am I?
Wait, have I? Oh, yeah.
Would you like to tell Gemma the story?
Okay. So we were out at a Lebanese restaurant, and we were there with Rachel, Maddie May, and Sarah Copeland. And basically they were like, oh, you should hide under the table and scare Adrian. I was like, oh my God, I should totally do that. Peer pressure, yes. So I did it, and then I did it really badly. I just went, rah. And then I lost my wallet and I couldn't find it. And it was like karma. So we found it eventually though, but that, yeah.
So, Gemma, this was just after 10-pin bowling. So this restaurant is near the 10-pin bowling place and near the arcade. And yeah, Ruby decided she would try to scare me, and I was not at all scared, but she lost her wallet. So normally when people try to mess with me, something bad happens to them. So someone has my back. I don't know if it will stand the test of you, Gemma, but we'll see. But I'm going to let the both of you go, because I know it's now 6:20, and I know you got things to do. So Gemma, obviously, thank you for your time.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thank you on behalf of me and Rachel.
Rachel right now is probably crying, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And thank you, Ruby, for your time as well.
No problemo.
Now, I don't know if we will be on next week. I was going to ask Rachel, but obviously because Rachel is going to be in China, I'm not sure that we'll be able to if we are able to get on, which I doubt because she's in a pageant, so you don't want to do something like this when you're in a pageant. But also she'll be in China with the time zone differences and the internet issues. So we'll see. I'll work it out with Ruby and Rachel. But we'll wrap this one up here. And thank you for watching, and we will see you all next time.
See you, fam.
Hey, it's Adrian. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to keep up to date with our interviews, then make sure to subscribe by clicking here. If you'd like to watch some of our interviews right now, then click here, and also make sure to follow us on all our socials right here. Speak to you next time.